Hi, I'm Charlie VanWynsberghe. I've been a member of Geneseo First Methodist for a couple decades anyway. And I wanted to let you know how I got started in this bread baking thing. I only like baking bread. I don't like baking anything else. It all started when I was reading about Jesus said you can't live on bread alone. So I thought, well, no kidding, Wonder Bread, you'd be dead real quick just eating that stuff. So I got into it and I found this site called King Arthur Flour, and it had a bunch of videos on there exactly how to do this. And as time went by, it started getting better. It looked like real bread. And I started branching out into making a lot of different kinds of bread. And this bread here is the first one that I made, and one I really like. It's called Walter Sands Basic White Bread. First thing I'm going to do is get 454 grams of water. I use a scale, and a Scali scale that measures in grams, because you can get really accurate. 454 grams of water. Now I zero the scale out, and here's where the scale comes in. It is so easy to, here, let me do this right-handed so maybe you can get this. Next thing I need to add is 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. So I know people can measure this out by themselves. Anyway, here's 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, and the yeast needs right now the sugar in the mix to start growing and dissolving. I don't know if you can pick up how weird that yeast is or not. It's like little cylinders, and yeast is alive. It's a live organism. I keep this in the freezer, keep it fresh and alive, because a pound of yeast is a lot. Different yeast causes different flavors. So this is Fleischmann's yeast. Never want to stir in your on top of your scale. You put too much pressure on it. This is my Danish dough whisk. I love that thing. 2 tablespoons of butter. Now this is going to get hit with the mixer, so I don't need to worry too much about doing anything but taking off the paper. So, hey, forgetting something real important here. My cool gloves. But if I put these gloves on, then I can just rinse them off real easy. Now I'm going to go and put in 6 cups or 723 grams of King Arthur All-Purpose Flour. And I like King Arthur flour because it's red wheat. The wheat was changed in the 1960s. Most of it is bleached now, chemically bleached. How do you bleach flour? I don't even want to know. So I'm going to put this King Arthur All-Purpose Flour in, 723 grams. So this is, no, see, don't matter. I can measure this out exactly. 24. Okay, it's a gram over. Now I want to show you how much little that is. Now there's 2 teaspoons of salt too. Now you might wonder about the salt, whether you can cut it back, and you can some, but not much, because salt slows down the yeast We'll get this snapped in here. Depending on how wet, how much moisture your flour has absorbed, that's why I have it in a plastic container. I may have to add some water or flour. So anyway, I put it in here. It says in the instructions to let it run for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. You can knead this by hand too, but I've got arthritis in my fingers and it just doesn't work well. I'd rather have this doing this than me trying to get it all mixed up myself. If you look at the dough right now, you'll think this is dry, and yet it isn't. And then what I'm going to do, it's called a window pane test. You just take a hunk of this dough and just yank it off. If you do it quick, it tears. Do it slowly, you're going to have a mess. But then what I want to do is flatten this piece of dough out and just keep doing that and seeing if I can get it so I can see through it in kind of a strange way of, I don't know if you can see, and if I put it up, oh, there's a way to do it. If I put it up there, you can see my finger behind it. If that means enough gluten has built up in the kneading that it's ready. What we're going to do now is let it rise anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on temperature. What we want it to do is actually double in size, expand to twice the size it is now. And I can feel this dough is cool. But anyway, it's kind of fun to practice your kneading a little bit. You get it greased on top, flip it over. Now we will let that rise. The longer it rises, the more flavor there'll be. Now, what we do is wait. Let it rise. Sing the next one, y'all. Sing, oh, let it rise, let it rise. I've got my 2 loaf pans, and you need to remember to spray these. It's a very bad thing if you don't. It'll stick and you'll have a soup bowl. Now we got to form the loaves, and I need to get my gloves back on. This made 2 loaves, so what I'm going to do is dump this out. You can kind of see what the yeast has been doing in there. I'll let it out like that. Now I can try cutting it in half. Having the right tools just works wonders. I'm going to check and see how close I am. .638. And this doesn't matter. It can be just close, but I like having it real close. 638, 596, 620 maybe. Now I need to make a loaf, and I just gently, it's called deflating the dough. I gently deflate the dough, and as I'm doing it, I'm kind of working it out. I want to make it into a big oval like. So anyway, I'm going to turn that around. It's a little long ways like that. I'm going to fold it like you would a letter, about halfway into the middle, and then with my thumb here, the heel of my thumb, I'm going to press it in and seal it down. I'm going to turn it around, stretch it out just a little bit if you want. Same way, fold it in there. Lay it down. Then I'm just going to fold it in half. Whew. And seam this, see if I can get it looking. I'm just going to pull this over a little bit and tuck it down, pull it over and tuck it in. It's dough. You can do this however basically you want. You're just trying to get it halfway close. I'm going to put it in a pan like this, and then I'm going to push it, and that will help fill it in. Now this is where you try to get it as level as you can, because if I got it humped up someplace, I stand a good chance of it cooking that way. Plop it in there, push down on it. Now, this is going to rest for 45 minutes, but something I need to do is spray the top of this dough, because we're going to cover it. If I don't use some of this, it doesn't need a lot, just to spray across the top, because you don't want your wax paper to stick to the dough. This is how you do it. You just drape it on there to keep the top of the dough from drying out. But you want to leave it halfway loose so the dough can rise up. Because this is going to rise a lot. It'll rise till it's up to about here. So that's all we do. We just waited an hour and a half to get it to this point. So most of the time it's just waiting.
Let it rise. Let it rise. Let it rise. Let it rise.
So the bread is risen. It took a little longer than we thought because it's a cool day and cool in here. But you can see if it was, if I hadn't put grease on the top of that or oil on top of that, it would have stuck and we'd have a mess. So now I just have to gently take these over to the oven, set it 350 degrees, and about 35 minutes on the middle rack. So that's what they look like now, and they're going to look different shortly. 35 minutes. I have a instant thermometer, and you want to get the internal temperature up to 190. Okay, I'm going to check the temperature on these. It's 190 at least, and it's done. So we'll check it and see what happens. Oh yeah, 208, that's great. And 207, that works out. Oh. And you can see on the sides of there just how good that looks. Then you have to let them cool on a rack. Otherwise, it'll draw moisture on the bottom, and you don't want that. And see how using that oil, that's exactly what you want to have happen. I'll turn this one around. So 350 degrees, put the nicest side out. There we go. And there we have it. That's how you make bread. There's no preservatives. They're only going to last like 4 days. So either freeze it, wrap it up in aluminum foil, or eat it. So, and I think you'll like it. So thanks for watching.